Now that we've opened everything up and we've checked that we've had all our fittings, we have the 2-inch size, we have the 1.5-inch size, both in barbed and slip fitting. The first thing we're going to do is open up our bag of media and pour it into the drum. The next thing we want to do is take our foam pre-filter and install it into the same chamber that your media just went into. You're going to tuck it down just below the top edge of the filter drum. Now we're going to take our lid, and if you notice on the lid, there's an alignment arrow. That alignment arrow needs to line up with the alignment arrow on your drum. And the reason for that is there's a separation wall here that separates your clean water chamber from your dirty water chamber. And the top of this wall fits inside of the channel that's inside the lid here. So you want to make sure that the arrow on your lid and the arrow on your drum are aligned. And you'll know that once you drop the lid down and there's hardly any gap in between the lid and the drum. There's also a notch and a tab here. The tab needs to fit inside the notch, just where the alignment arrows are indicated, and you'll know your lid is on tight. Now, this particular filter came with the UV option. So at this point, we're going to take our quartz sleeve, we're going to install it into the lid. Now, if you notice on the quartz sleeve, there's 2 O-rings. One O-ring sits on the barrel of the quartz sleeve. There's a second O-ring that sits along the top edge of the quartz sleeve. This O-ring on the barrel is what keeps the watertight seal between the sleeve and the water inside the drum. It's very important that it's there, otherwise you're going to have a leak. The O-ring seal on top is what keeps the water from going inside the quartz sleeve. The bulb itself has 4 pins. You need to line up the 4 pins on the socket with the 4 pins on the lamp and simply plug it in. Now insert the whole assembly into the quartz sleeve. Snug down on the cap, and the UV assembly is complete. Just make sure both caps are tight before you start up the filter. Now we'll install the clamp. And the clamp can go in any location on the lid. There's no particular place that it needs to be in order to lock itself in. You'll take half of it, push it down, take the other half, and at that point you should have about an 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches gap in between. Now the filter comes with a stainless steel bolt and the knob that tightens it. Now, if you notice on one side of the clamp, there's a recessed hex cavity. The reason for that recessed hex cavity is this is the side that you're going to be inserting the bolt head. And that's what keeps the bolt from spinning as you're tightening up the knob. If you put the bolt in the wrong way, the head of the bolt is going to be spinning as you're tightening the knob. So now once you have the bolt in with the hex recessed into that tab, you can start tightening up your knob. And you'll see your clamp starting to close up along the perimeter of your lid. Make sure you tighten all the way down with your clamp, otherwise you will have a leak between your drum and your lid. Now, there is a rubber gasket that's on the top of your drum, and that's what seals the lid down into the drum. And that's about all you're going to go. At this point, you're tightened up. You won't see any gap around the lid and the clamp. It's going to be tightened up. And that is the entire process for loading up your media, attaching your lid, attaching your UV, and clamping your lid down to the drum.